Yuri here, going to teach you my technique for tuning the PIDs on Alexmos gimbals. I highly recommend you use a 32-bit 2IMU board. The older boards with 1IMU and the 8-bit ones had a lot of trouble getting some more extreme angles. So it might be trickier to tune an older board than it is to tune the newer ones with my technique. A little bit of background about me. I am a movie technician and a drone pilot for commercials, TV shows, and movies. So I just make the movies work on set when they need lens switches or anything. Same with flying the drone. I take care of the whole system, do the permits, do the piloting, and I've got a camera operator flying with me who controls the camera. So here comes the tuning video, and I hope it helps. This is my method for tuning an Alexmos gimbal. I suggest having a 32-bit board with 2 IMUs. The 8-bit boards with 1 IMUs have trouble when you get to extreme angles like this. The roll motor and the yaw motor get confused. They don't know which one's which, and you'll get weird vibrations. So if you can get a 32-bit board with 2 IMUs, I highly recommend that. So get your gimbal powered up, plug it in, have it hooked up to your simplebgc software. We're going to start with tilt because it is not affected by the other axes. It's the only one inside itself. If we did roll, we have tilt contained in it. If we did yaw, we'd have tilt and roll contained in it. So we're just going to start with the simplest one on the outside. First thing we have to do is set everything to 0. And we'll write that. So now the gimbal has no power and no PIDs. We'll also go to follow mode and make sure that our pitch and roll follow is disabled and that follow yaw is also off. We're going to start with our pitch, and the first thing we're going to have to set is our power. Power can go from 0 to 255. You don't want to go to 255 unless you really need the extra power because you can overheat the motors. Having enough power is important because it will keep the gimbal working through jerky movements from running or walking, from wind if you're traveling fast enough, and from the momentum of the camera swinging through certain movements. To find the appropriate amount of power, start by adding some P and D, a low value of about 10 each so that you can feel the resistance from the power value. Try powers of 50, then 100, 150, and 200. So what I'll do first is throw 10P and 10D, and I will start with a power of 50. Once I write that, you can see the gimbal moved, got some power to it now. You can feel by moving it around it has a little bit of resistance, but not enough resistance. You want it so that, if you're pushing it a bit, it really fights back and tries to stay where it is. So let's try 100. A little bit more. Still not enough. Could be enough, but not the way I like to tune it. Try 150. Yeah, see, that's good. You can really feel like you have to put some pressure into it to get it to move. I'll try 200 as well. There, feels really good. You can feel it's got a whole bunch of resistance to it. So if I drop this tennis ball on the lens, see how it barely moves? If I had it at 50, it moves it way more. So there is a good, example without you being able to feel how much pressure I'm actually putting on my finger when I tap it. So let's go to 200 where we're happy. The next step is to find the P value. Once you find that, you'll be able to tune the D and the I to work with it. So let's bring everything down to 0. Your P and D values, not your power. I have found that the higher you can get the P, the more stable it is. However, sometimes having the P too high will lead to oscillations and overcompensating on stabilization, which leads to shakiness. Get P up to a high enough number so that when you move the gimbal around, you can feel some resistance. This part is somewhat of a guessing game. Once you've chosen a P value, you can start tuning the D value. So right now we're at 0. You can see how it's kind of wobbly. If we put this up to 10, it's not as wobbly. Let's try 15. Remember, this is kind of a guessing game. So we pretty much find a P we think we can work with it, and then see how well it stabilizes. If we need to get it more stable, we'll increase the P and try again. And if we're happy with it, we keep it where it is. So at 15, it feels like it would work pretty well. It's not overcompensating or anything. So that's 15. Let's try 40 just so you can see what that looks like. See how it's shaking on its own? That's too high. If it was a 30, 30 is also shaking on its own without any D. I think 15 was nice. Okay, so we're gonna go with 15, and that's the number we just guessed and checked. Threw it up too high, saw it was shaking on its own. We like 15. Now we're ready to tune our D value. To find out where we need to put our D at, tap the camera with the finger and watch the camera wobble before it comes back to rest. You want to add D to shorten the time that it takes the camera to get back to rest and to reduce the wobble. So if I tap it lightly, you see how much wobble it's got there? If I add, say, 5D and tap it, see how much quicker that is? Stops the wobble a lot sooner. Let's try 10. And that's still okay. We can keep going up until, there, you see that? Barely any wobble, and then it stopped. Let's try 20. See, barely even wobbles at all. Let's try 25. That looks really nice there. Say we went to something like 50. That's pretty good too. We could live with that. If we went to something crazy like 120, you'll hear some high-pitched vibrations. So you'd know you're too high. You might not be able to hear them on camera, but they're there. So say we are down to, what do we like, 50? 50 seemed good. And say we want a visual representation. What we would do, go to the monitoring window, and we have our graphs here. So we know that it's Z. I mean, Z. That's our tilt. You can see that the pink line moves. That's the angle that the tilt is on. So when we have it up here, that's level. Down here, it's pointing straight down. And the Z gyro is the one that goes with it. We'll put the frame rate up to 50. And then we'll zoom in enough so we can see both. So here we have our graph. You can see it moves along with the way I move the camera. So say I was to tap the camera like we were doing earlier. This is with our 15 and 50. Tap it. See how it kind of ends pretty quick there, and the vibrations slowed. Pretty much everything that went, if you watch the monitoring again, everything smooths out relatively quick. If I put this down to 0, like we had it before, we can go to monitoring and we tap it. See all that wobble going on in there? No good. So that's a good way of seeing a visual representation of what is going on. And then, like we said, I guess before, if we had it at 120 and it was vibrating, and if you couldn't hear it, now you can see it. See those vibrations everywhere? So let's put it back to a nice cool 50. Once you're happy with the D value, now it's time to add some I. I have found that with a lower I value, you get better performance out of the gimbal. The I gets the gimbal back to level. The higher the I, the higher it gets back to level. If you have the I too high, it can cause weird vibrations or come back and overshoot too much. So you just want to get it, you want to get the I high enough that it works well, but still as low as possible. So we will start by adding 0.1 as low as you can go. For smaller gimbals, that usually works. Nothing's happening because it's already level. If we put it down here, it's very, very, very slowly moving. And if you look at the monitoring, you can see, well, you can barely see anything. It's really slow. If we crank this up to 0.5, there, now you see it moving up. If you look at our monitoring, you can see this heading up as well. So say we had it tilted straight down. And for this, for the I value, that's an okay speed because you don't really need to have it that tight or that fast. But we can go higher still. I think this is a better speed. I think if it comes back like this with my experiences at this rate, you have some pretty good results. You can see it moving up right here on the chart. So I'll go with that eye level. I like it. Let's see what will happen if we put eye to something crazy like 0.9, 0.7. Let's see what happens there. Seems like with a 0.7 it would still work alright. Let's try something super crazy like a 3. Still seems to work. Maybe on larger DSLRs you can get away with more. But then again, you have to have everything working together as one. So, 0.3. I guess 3 gets stuck at 0.7. Let's see what our maximum is. We can't even do 3. Now let's see if we do something crazy like 2.4. There, see how it's freaking out when we get too high on our I value? So let's keep it at, let's say 0.7. 0.7 seemed to work okay. So now we have an I value that works pretty well. It'll get the camera back to level reasonably fast. It might be a little too high, but we'll see. The next test is to rock the gimbal forward and backwards to see how well the tilt angle is holding. You use this circle tool in the bottom right of the simplebgc to check. The white number tells you how many degrees off from level you are. The blue number tells you what angle you're actually at. The white is the estimated frame angle, and this black arrow is what angle it's actually pointed at. So our test goes like this. Now that we have everything at 0, we're going to rock the gimbal forwards and backwards. We don't need the roll motor twisting, and we don't need the yaw motor twisting, so I'm just going to put my hand back here to keep it from going like this. So we'll rock it back and forth. You can see then the white number is barely moving. It's not even going to -1 or +1. I rock it harder. Oh, it just moved there because it hit my hand. Let's see. Let's do it from this way. See what happens. So that's pretty good. You see how that black arrow is staying level? That means it's keeping horizon. And it's not drifting more than 1 degree any direction, which means it's very stable. Fine. Do a quick movement like that, you can still see the pitch is rock solid. So now we know we have a well-tuned axis. Now we have, you can even put some resistance on it, you know, we're tapping it and it's staying level. So now let's quickly do the same thing with the roll and the yaw and see how it reacts. So 200, why not? Okay, let's add some P. A little too easy to move around. Let's add some, get that up to 50 maybe. A little bit more resistance, that's kind of nice. I think we'll need even more. The roll axis does have to do a lot of work, so let's put this to 220. I just added 20D there, just a rough guess, just so I could feel the resistance at the power level of 220. And this feels pretty good. I feel comfortable with that. So 220 is good. So now that we're going to mess with our P values, so 0 on the P, and we tap it. See that shake? Let's get rid of the wobble. And then we can change our monitoring to find our roll axis. So X and X. So right now you can see there's our wobble. Why'd I pick 50? I want a nice high number because roll has to work a lot. So let's give it, say, 30D. There, that's pretty good. You want me to show you more of a process? I'll do 10. See, that's wobbling a lot. Let's go 20, see how that works. Yeah, still getting some wobble there. I'll crank this up to 30 again. Let's try 30. Let's try 40. Why not? That gets back pretty quick. We can see how high it'll go before it vibrates. 100. There, you can hear it. So we know 100 is way too high. Let's try 50. $50 looks pretty cool. We can zoom in, really see the chart there. So I'll go with 50. That works. So let's go 0.7. Let's see if the same thing works as it did for pitch. No, see that crazy shaking? No good. So let's just bring this down to 0.08. Turn it comes back nice and smooth. You can even see how smooth it comes back on this monitor. See how it's kind of jaggedy? It's not the best. I'm sure you could play with the settings to make them nicer, but it works. So, there, we have that. Now let's test it out. We're going to be looking at the roll here, and this means it's at 0. Here are the blue numbers, and we need this 0.02 here. It's going to show us how much we're wobbling left and right. I'm going to zoom out a bit. Right, I'm going to hold my yaw stable because I don't need this thing spinning around, screwing everything up. Oh, I'm getting numbers like 2, which isn't that good. There, let's... yaw, I think the yaw motor is screwing this up a bit. Okay, let's tilt it. Oh, it's having a hard time coming back to level. See how it's going -5 and stuff? Too much movement. No good. So what I would do in that case is I would go back to tuning my pitch. So, okay, power's good. Maybe it needs more power. Maybe it's losing momentum. So let's go 230. Get this down to 0. This down to 0. So now we're back with just the p-value for roll. It wasn't really holding well, so let's bring this up to something crazy like 80. Let's go 88. Now let's add a whole bunch of D to smooth it out. Needs more. Zoom in on that for you. That wobble looks pretty good. Let's check the monitor. Oh, okay, that's nice. And let's bring this up to let's try 0.5. Now let's see how that holds up. We're watching our white number on the roll. See, it hit 0.1, but this is a lot better. We might be getting a little bit of screwiness from the yaw axis, but for now, that's a pretty good, solid tune. We could also test that if we angle the camera back. We want to see if these axes freak out or not. See how we're getting that nice angle? Because the old 32-bit boards, I mean the old 8-bit boards would kind of screw up when you hit past 45. And here you can feel a little bit of vibrations coming through, but that's nothing to really worry about. Like high-pitched vibrations, that's okay. That's probably a balance issue. I think the whole camera setup is a little bottom heavy, so it's fine. I'm okay with that. Next is yaw, same technique. Yaw's got a lot of shit going on underneath this motor, so let's crank that to 230. So 230. Yaw's kind of weird because, oh, okay, 230. We know we need a lot of power. I mean, we could do the same test, but we can make power work, so 20, 20, 20. And you can feel how the stiffness. So we're happy with that power level. So let's crank this up maybe 30. It feels nice and stiff there. So remember, P is kind of a guessing game. I'll go with 30. Oh, we already have some D. So if we go 30 without that, I see how it's wobbly. So 30. Let's add some D. So go to 20 there. Oh, that's a bad place to tap. Let's tap on the roll bar. The yaw. Let's tap the yaw axis bar at the top. This one's kind of different. I don't really think anything shows up for the direct translation of left and right. But we can just open all these up, all our gyros up, and we tap. Oops, it's an accelerometer. So it looks like when we tap, it's this one here that's really standing out. So we're gonna go off that if we wanted to use the graph. So let's get this up to 30. Close enough. That smooths down nicer. 35. And that quiets it down quickly. Let's try 40. Oops. That's pretty good. And let's do a big jump to 60 and see what happens. Even better. So let's go with 60. That seems to be working okay. Now we need some I value. Since we're on follow yaw, since follow yaw is disabled, right here, if I move it, it's just going to stay there. Okay, so let's add 0.01 and see what happens. This is the angle that we set it at, so let's turn it and see how quick it comes back. Pretty much a snail's pace. Let's try it. 0.06. Coming back quicker. Let's try 0.1. That works, I guess. We'll see. So, once we get back to our little home position for left and right, 0.01, that means we're, the blue one at 0, that means we're back to neutral. Minus 22.5, that's just because it's not lined up with the frame. But think of minus 22.5 as these zeros when we test out the left and right. Oh, fuck. So there, we're getting like 2 degrees, 1 degree difference, which is pretty good for what we're trying to do. And since we have all of our axes now balanced and tuned, let's write these settings and give it a good test. Oh, follow ya. So let's put this here, facing this camera, or we can reposition it. No, we can't. Motor's on, off. Well, let's angle it towards where I want it to, just in this test mode. Click right. There. So let's see. It looks like it's acting nice. If we just look at what's going on. Left and right is holding. So it looks like we have a pretty tuned up gimbal. Now if we look at the numbers going left and right, our roll, the white number is going no higher than half a degree, which is great. Forward and backwards is no higher than half a degree as well, which is great. Left and right, you're getting about 1 or 2 degrees, which isn't the best, but it'll do. Let's put follow mode, follow yaw, see how that reacts. I guess we need to line this up when we write it. I have a joystick on here, but this mode it's set up for an RC receiver, so I'm not going to mess with this joystick because it's not going to do anything. So left and right, it works. You see when I land, no, see that little wobble there? So we'd probably have to tune up our P to fix that. There it is again. You see how it landed and shot back? So there we need some adjusting on the Y, on the yaw, which is okay. Let's go follow pitch and turn off follow yaw. And let's, I guess, write that. Well, let's see how well it reacts to following. Okay, ready? Not freaking out or anything. That's nice. Looking down, not freaking out or anything. That's also nice. So it looks like we got some good balance there. Alright, so next thing we have to do is deal with that little yaw problem. So, you know how the yaw was kind of, when the yaw would land, it would bounce back. What it was the low pass filter was to 3. And that screwed it up. I guess it smoothed it out too much to the point where it overshot. I put it down to 0, and now you can see that it stays. I guess I'll do a quick test with this gimbal just so you can see it's actually working. And there you have it. And I accidentally started messing around with my roll settings, thinking it was the yaw settings, and I was trying to fix that issue. And I don't have a replay exactly right now of what the settings were, and I think that's what it was. So whatever it is right now, I'll go test that out. See how it looks. But that's my gimbal tuning. So right now we have, yeah, I'll go test that out right now. I'll go test that out. Follow. Well, actually, I'll just fucking turn this shit on right now. Oh, what shut down? You did. Ran out of battery. No problem. And now you'll be able to even see the test with the computer hooked up to it. So, can you hear anything this one? Test, test. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay. Zoom back. Zoom out. So we have it in follow yaw mode. Left, right. There's your tilt. Seems to be holding. Oh, bounced back a little there. Maybe the speed was too high. Then if we get rid of follow yaw, any bumpiness is from me ripping it around like that. Oh, maybe that was too much momentum one direction and shifted it. That works. And then let's test our follow pitch and follow yaw. So that works as well. So it seems like the gimbal works. Hope you liked it.